Hopefully, we will have the right explanation to replace it with the proper form of government, the kind of answers that our founders gave us. And they wrote a document which was intended in no way to restrict you. It was written to restrict the federal government.
Yeah.
There is a Federal Reserve System and it is allowed to exist, it facilitates deficit financing. If you had sound money, if you couldn't print money out of thin air, and you had somebody that wants to spend a lot of money on an entitlement system in order to buy votes, or a lot of money to be spent on policing the world to satisfy some special interests, we could tax, but there wouldn't be enough money, and then we would start borrowing, and there still wouldn't be enough money. And that's when they resort to the inflation. The amazing thing is that our government, our country has gotten away with it for so long. The world has trusted us because we have been, and still are, we still are probably the wealthiest country in the world. And we have a lot of weaponry, so there's a false illusion that we'll be there forever. But now that we're the biggest debtor in the history of the world ever, that we know that this end is coming to this, and we have to replace it with something. So it is the basic questions we have to ask. What should the role of government be? And what does liberty mean? Does liberty mean something to us? Are we frightened by it? Do we feel insecure? Do we want our government to take care of us from cradle to grave and make sure that they will protect us from all dangers? You know, basically, we're not safe because we have a big government. We're not safe because there are a lot of policemen. We're safe basically because most people assume that they have to protect themselves, and one of the reasons we were given the Second Amendment, you know, to make sure that. Unfortunately, in my lifetime, there's been a transition away from the way we one time looked at our local police, let alone the federal police. We have 100,000 federal bureaucrats now who regulate us and our property and march into our businesses, and they're carrying guns. I would say those are the guns that we ought to regulate.
Oh, yeah.
But even the local authorities have become more authoritarian in the way they enforce what they consider the legitimate laws. Right now, there are 50,000 break-ins by police without the proper search warrant that are sting operations looking for somebody that might be smoking cigarettes or smoking marijuana. In these houses, and I read a terrible story today of one of these operations they broke in, and it was in an ex-Marine's house. He's been to Iraq, and he put his family in a closet, so he pulled his gun, but he heard somebody banging on the door and busting in, so he had a gun in his hand. And the door, finally opened the door, and he never shot a shot. He didn't even take the safety off his gun. He ended up with 32 bullets in his head and his body, and he had nothing in his house. So what are we doing to ourselves? You know, yes, we take an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies foreign. But right now, I really fear for the destruction of my liberty and your liberty from domestic. Understand exactly what self-ownership meant. They also translate that into seeing that liberty was a whole piece. It wasn't in parts. Today we sort of break it up. We have economic liberty and personal liberty. We actually even have freedom of speech broken up into two places. We have political speech and advertising or commercial speech. But speech is speech, and freedom is freedom. And economic freedom is the same as personal liberty. Together again, and we have to have the confidence that a free society is the best. And right now, I'm afraid that we've don't do something about it and get a handle on it, my meager suggestion in the campaign right now on getting a handle on the budget is in the very first year, cut $1 trillion out of the budget this year.
One thing that I'm proud about in our campaign, last go around and this go around, actually even more so, is the fact that I have been accused of not supporting the troops and that I'm patriotic and American because I vote to support the wars. But when it comes to donations, I have the 3 top groups of individuals. You can look on the computer and put in a category on what their occupation is. The top category of donations coming from individuals comes from the U.S. Air Force.
Useless wars that aren't even declared is complete nonsense. They're willing to defend our country, but they don't want to just go to war for the sake of war. They think it's good sense to say, let's go rarely, and you have to go win it and do it properly, make the proper declaration, but make sure we really have an enemy and don't make it so vague. And that's coming from our military people. Right now, and look at his top 3 donations, and they all came from 3 big banking institutions. I wonder if they expect to get some special benefits from the Federal Reserve or just what, another bailout. But we do live in crucial times, and we do need a re-energized defense of liberty. We need to understand what it is and put it back together. Because we did have a wonderful test in this country. We had the freest country and the most prosperous country. We had the biggest, largest middle class ever. But it's not there anymore. The middle class is shrinking, the poor are growing, more numerous. The rich are getting richer, the small number, and most of them are making money off the system. So this is being challenged. But we now had that experiment. We had, a great system, but now we don't have that. And if you think about it historically, freedom has not been, overly successful in that not many countries really enjoyed it. Even today, think of how many countries do not have real freedom, and also we don't have real freedom anymore. But there are so many that throughout history that has been that way. Most of history has been dominated by tyranny. And today, the Americans are annoyed, upset, and confused at times, but I don't know if they clearly understand that the major problem is we're having less and less freedom and more tyranny, and it's going in the opposite direction, and we need to change that direction. That is my goal and my intent, to fight for the cause of liberty, to make sure that we have the maximum amount of freedom and the maximum amount of prosperity in this country. Thank you.